Vi skal ind og snakke med 2 mennesker fra den ukrainske klub i Roskilde. Interviewet foregår en uges tid efter den russiske invasion af Ukraine. Vi skal først snakke med Gala. Interviewet kommer til at foregå på engelsk, og jeg skal prøve at gøre mit bedste. Og bagefter snakker vi med Jesper på dansk. Gala, thank you for letting me into your home.
My pleasure.
You are from Ukraine. You live here in Roskilde with your family. And I'll start with the question, the item everybody is talking about these days. Did you expect the Russian invasion to Ukraine?
Yes, we expected this invasion. The war in Ukraine started 8 years ago, and during the last months we've seen this huge build-up of Russian military forces on the Ukrainian border. So I think it's not only me and my family, but entire world was expecting and talking about that.
After the Crimea
Yes, after Crimea invasion in 2015, yes.
Yeah. And now you have war against the very powerful Russia. Do you feel all alone, your country, towards big Russia?
I think we don't feel alone. We received so much support in these days. Our Ukrainian community in Denmark, my family, and all our Ukrainian friends. And it's not only Danish support, it's a support from entire Western world and civilized world. So we don't feel alone in this uneven battle. Of course, we would like more help. And of course, Ukrainians are asking for more help. But I think right now we feel supported.
How did you learn of the invasion?
On the day of invasion, 5:30 in the morning, I received a phone call from our friends in Kiev. They told me that Kiev was bombarded and they are running away with their 2 small kids. And they are planning to come to my hometown. So that's how I learned about that. And after that, I started calling all my friends and relatives, and they were confirming. And on that day of invasion, my friends here, Ukrainian friends in Roskilde, we planned a big event for kids in our club. We wanted to go to Sweden to have ski vacation together, so kids could learn how to ski and have some time together and play. So on the beginning we decided that we are not being able to do that, but miraculously all parents decided to do it, so kids could have some fun despite of this horrible mood we all had. So that was the first day.
We'll continue with that in a moment, but before I would like to ask, what is your history? You're safe in Roskilde now. When did you come to Denmark and what's your history?
I came to Denmark around 4 years ago together with my family, my husband, who's Dane, and my 2 kids, Marcus and Alex. My husband and I met each other in Ukraine. He was working on an international project in my hometown, Kamenets-Podilsky. He was building a big new factory, and that's where we met and fell in love and decided to have a family and kids. And then we moved from Ukraine to England. We lived in England, we worked in England, we raised our family in England. Then we moved to Philippines, and after that we decided to settle down in Denmark because our kids grew bigger, and that was a good time to start settling down. And we decided that Denmark is a very safe, nice and good place for us to do it.
Yeah, sure. You're here in Roskilde now, but your mind and your thoughts are, of course, in Ukraine. Which part of Ukraine are you thinking of? Where do you come from in Ukraine? I have a kind of map here. And
yes. So my hometown called Kamenets-Podilsky, and it's situated in the south-west part of Ukraine, not that far from Romanian and Moldovan border. So that's here.
It's like here, up there?
Yeah, up here, yeah.
Yeah, like this.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What does it look like in your region and your hometown?
My hometown is a historical town, and it's a famous tourist destination for Ukrainians and Poles and many other international tourists. And it's very famous for its fort, medieval fort. And the interesting thing about our hometown that it actually reminds me a lot about Roskilde because the size is almost the same. Kamenets-Podilsky was at some point, for a little short time, a capital of Ukraine, just like Roskilde. Yeah. And it's also small, but big enough to have museums, to have cultural events, to have lots of festivals. So it reminds me a lot about Roskilde. And the interesting thing about my hometown that it's a home of 7 cultures. We call it the town of 7 cultures, where Ukrainians, Poles, Turks, Jews, Russians, Lithuanians live. And every ethnic group has its own neighborhood. And we have this very famous festival called 7 Cultures. So it is an amazing place and very beautiful.
You still have family in there?
Yes, I have. My mom lives there, and lots of my friends and other relatives live there. My father, though he lives on the south of Ukraine, right now it's under Russian occupation.
How do they manage at the time, at the moment, your mother, for instance?
My mom doesn't cope very well with the situation. She's very stressed, and although she's trying to sound calm, I can see that he's not thinking very straight, because every time I ask her to start moving towards the border so we can pick her up and bring her here, she says that she's going to stay till the end and she's ready to take whatever is coming. And it sounds like she's under the big stress right now. My father and his sister and his family, they're living in Khersonska region that right now is under Russian control. The situation there is very bad. They live in the basement, they have some food, water, but they are expecting to run out of that very soon, and there are lots of old people who need medicine, so it's a huge crisis there, and I, to be honest, don't know how can I help right now.
How do you keep in contact?
We call each other, we text each other.
Yeah.
Via the phone, yes.
Do you think that will end up as refugees at a moment?
In Denmark, you mean?
Yes, that they will come to Denmark or to Germany, Poland.
Yes, I think, yes, that's the outcome of this crisis. One of the outcomes of this crisis is a huge refugee wave to Europe, and we already see this huge queues on Polish-Romanian borders. Amount of refugees in the second day of invasion was absolutely unreal. One of our friends who are running away from this war right now, they spent around 2 days on the Romanian border to get through. So it is a catastrophic situation.
Yeah. But it would be too hard for your mother in her condition to...
Yes, I think, and that makes it even harder for her to move out, despite of the fact that the border is not that far. But she doesn't have car, she cannot drive, and she's too stressed.
What do we feel about being so far away while all these terrible things are happening?
The interesting thing that just a few days before invasion started, I was in Ukraine because my dad got really, really sick. So despite of the danger and understanding that invasion can come any day, collectively, my family, we took decision that I will fly to Ukraine to see my dad and help him, and I did. And I was really stressed out because I was really afraid that I might end up stuck in that region when the invasion come. But luckily for me, I left Ukraine just a few days before invasion started. So right now I feel relieved on one side, but from the other side I feel guilty that I'm not there to help my brothers and sisters, and I always feel that I could do more, but I can do nothing. I cannot go back to help them. The only thing I can do is to help from here, and that's exactly what my family in Denmark is doing. We're helping as much as we can, day and night. All our resources are there to help Ukraine.
I read that Ukrainian authorities ask Ukrainians abroad to join the army back home. What do you think of that?
I think this is expected because Ukraine fighting this uneven, horrible, catastrophic war, not only for its territory and freedom, but for Western values of freedom, sovereignty, law. So in that case, I think that Ukraine should get all the possible help, because this would be very unfair if Ukraine would stand alone against this big enemy.
What other ways do you think it's possible for helping and supporting?
One of the ways would be to help civilians in Ukraine who are suffering the most right now, because as we all know, Russia does not care where to shoot. They are shooting in civilian buildings, kindergartens, schools, just roads, bridges, everything. And we know how many dead kids and adults are lying on the street right now. In Kharkiv, we ended up in a situation that authorities are not able to collect corpses of civilian Ukrainians because Russians are not stopping bombarding. So we can, and the worst situation is with wounded people, so we cannot help them. In all that context, I think that the biggest help will be to donate, so there will be proper help to civilians in Ukraine. Another way to help is to sign up into a list to host refugees that are going to come to Denmark. And the most important and the powerful help we all can do is remain united and strong and against this attack and assault on sovereign country. And we should be really aware that we have to press on our governments. This is our duty and our responsibility to force politicians to be strong and have a strict, direct line about this conflict. So I would like to address all the Danish people to please help, support Ukraine, stay united.
And back up.
Back up, yeah. Please.
The Danish attitude to Ukrainians, do you think it will change because of this?
During my 4 years of living in Denmark, I received only welcoming here, and I think Danes are, in general, a very, very welcoming nation and very tolerant. I've never ever experienced any wrong things towards my ethnicity or my culture from Danes. So in this context, I think that I only can say thank you to Danish society and Danish politicians that they are having such a strong support and help. And yeah.
And your future life, that is here in Denmark.
That is another part of this situation, because right now my husband and I are spending all our resources and energy on working and helping Ukraine in this crisis and in this war. And one of the reasons for that, because we want a better future for our kids. I think right now every European, and not only European, but every family in the world is anxious about which kind of future we are going to leave our kids. What will they inherit? Money that could go for battling climate change and education and build a better future for our kids now are going to be spent on military and weapons, on fight, on war, and this is really wrong. And therefore I think we should end this war and this crisis as soon as possible, and we all have to unite against Putin's regime and stop this war as soon as possible, before it's too late for all of us.
You mentioned before that in your hometown it was multi-ethnic. You have 7 nationalities. Do you think it will be possible for Russians, Ukrainians to live all together in the same country?
The thing is that Ukraine has lots of ethnic minorities. It's not only my hometown, but entire Ukraine is built from many ethnicities, and they've been living together for many, many years and in peace and respect, and I've never experienced any rudeness between different cultures. And we have different restaurants in my hometown, in entire Ukraine: Georgian restaurant, Russian restaurant, Turkish restaurant, Polish cuisine. So we never experienced that problem, and therefore this crisis is horrible, because it's very hard to understand and accept and forgive your neighbor that comes and invades and assault your people. We don't have explanation for that.
What is your dream for Ukraine?
My dream for Ukraine is end of war, and my dream for Ukraine that Ukraine finally gets its fair place in the European family. And we all know that our President Zelensky asked European leaders to accept Ukraine in Euro unions. So I think in this point I would support him a lot and say that Ukraine paid huge price to be here on the same terms and every other European nation. We are paying blood, and we are paying lives, and we are paying sweat to protect Western world from this tyrant, from this horrible invasion. And we are fighting not only for our freedom, but for every European family freedom and sovereignty. So I think that would be the least thing that Europeans could do for Ukraine.
I skulle på ferie til Sverige skiferie, da beskeden kom om invasionen. Hvordan føltes det?
Ja, det var jo lidt, hvad kan man sige, en dårlig start på noget, der skulle have været rigtig hyggeligt. Og der var jo med det samme snak om hvad skulle vi gøre? Skulle vi blive hjemme? Skulle vi tage afsted? Skulle vi lave noget helt andet? Men efter at snakke lidt med de forskellige familier og hvad de havde lyst til, så blev man enige om, at vi tog afsted, fordi altså, så fik børnene trods alt det ud af det de havde forventet, og så skal vi ikke, så sidder vi heller ikke bare herhjemme og hvad kan man sige, sure dårlige nyheder til, så det var helt umuligt at få et overblik over, altså hvad der skete og hvorfor, når det hele det sådan lige kick off der om tidligere om morgenen. Hvor man er også med det samme bekymret for alle man kender, og alle man har snakket med, der siger, jeg løber den her vej, vi løber den her vej, og man kunne det samme se, at veje og det hele blev fuld af køer, og jeg kunne ikke komme ud, og en kammerat sagde, at jeg skal lige ned og have benzin, og det tog ham 2 timer at få noget på bilen, inden han kunne køre videre, så var det helt lukket, og andre der ringer og siger, jeg har ikke nogen bil, jeg kan ikke komme ud, hvad skal jeg gøre? Og man kan jo bare absolut ingenting gøre herfra, end jeg opfordrer dem til at komme afsted, hvis det er sikkert, men det ved man jo ikke engang herfra. Så.
Gala fortalte, at den russiske invasion desværre ikke kom bag på hende. Hvordan har du det med det?
Nej, altså man håbede jo til det sidste, at der ville ske et eller andet, men det er bare jo måske derhen af, og stadigvæk synes jeg i hvert fald personligt, at jeg havde en eller anden forhåbning om, at det var raslen med sabler, selvom altså, vi har set før, at de gik ind i Krim og støtter Donbass og Lugansk region, så man havde måske forventet, at der ville ske noget derovre omkring, men en fuldskæl invasion af Ukraine var måske ikke lige noget, jeg havde forventet, og ikke noget, jeg hvad kan man sige, havde ønsket at se, og det er svært at begribe, at det rent faktisk er kommet så vidt, når man har boet derovre og har oplevet, hvordan Rusland og Ukraine før har interageret med hinanden på, hvad kan man sige, på menneskeligt niveau. Så kan det godt være, at statsleder og ambitionsniveau er noget andet, men trods alt er der mange familier, der er på begge sider af grænsen. Så vi kender det måske lidt fra danske og svenske. Vi har også en lang historie og har været venner og fjender, men det er alt sammen i gamle historie.
Hvilken måde synes du, man bedst kan hjælpe på nu?
Der tror jeg, jeg vil holde mig til de anbefalinger, der kommer fra de nødhjælpsorganisationer, der er i gang på området, som har fået nok altså folk ved grænsen, og man kan se billederne fra Polen, de er ved at ryge over, så det er nok bedre at donere penge på nuværende tidspunkt, altså, men ellers så vil de jo opdatere på, hvad de har brug for. Altså man ved fra Ukraine selv, at de er meget interesserede i beskyttelsesudstyr til de her ikke-militære enheder, som er til at beskytte, altså frivillige, man kan sige en frivillig hær, som holder øje med sikkerhed af de byer, ikke er måske direkte involveret i kampe, men stadigvæk i skudlinjen. De mangler beskyttelsesveste, hjelme og forskellige førstehjælpsudstyr, og det er ikke alle ting, der er lige nemmere for privatpersoner at anskaffe, så penge til nødhjælpsorganisationer er nok det bedste, man kan gøre på nuværende tidspunkt.
Den ukrainske klub i Roskilde, hvordan opstod den?
Den opstod af ud af den ukrainske klub i København, hvor at der er mange medlemmer, som kørte hele vejen til København, og så tænkte, kan vi lave noget i Roskilde, så skal man køre lidt mindre, og så opstod den ud af den, så der blev 2, og så nogle vælger at køre her til, andre kører til København. Og det er en klub, hvor man selvfølgelig mødes og taler ukrainsk, hvor børnene får at lære lidt om, hvor de kommer fra. Også have lidt kontakt med forskellige ukrainere, nu man er rejst udenlands. Og ellers bare have det sjovt og opleve noget. Vi har så udvidet den her i Roskilde, så der også er et element for forældrene, der kan... Vi spiller for eksempel noget fodbold en gang imellem, og vi laver noget yoga og sådan nogle forskellige ting, så der også er noget socialt for forældrene. Så vi bliver en større og større gruppe og kender hinanden på mere end bare klubniveau.
Hvor mange medlemmer er der cirka af den ukrainske klub?
Jeg vil tro, der er omkring 50 medlemmer, og altså voksne og lige så mange børn.
Hvordan støtter I så hinanden i de her dage, både i familien og i den ukrainske klub?
Ja, vi er meget engageret i frivilligt arbejde, hvor der koordineres via forskellige grupper på de sociale medier, Facebook og Instagram, med hvad der skal bruges rundt omkring. Det kan være, at i morgen så skal man til Køge og hjælpe med at sortere nogle pakker, der så skal sendes afsted, eller man skal ud og lave noget andet et andet sted, og der opstår hele tiden opgaver, som man så kan slå til. Og så er der selvfølgelig, man snakker om, hvordan går det med jeres og familiemedlemmer, der stadigvæk er i Ukraine, eller på vej hertil, eller på vej ud, eller hvor de nu må være på vej hen.
Noget af det sværeste at snakke med sine børn om, det er jo om krig og forklare det slags ting. For jer må det jo være ekstra svært. Hvordan klarer I det?
Hvordan klarer vi det? Det er et rigtig godt spørgsmål. Jeg tror bare, at vi snakker løs om det og svarer på de spørgsmål, der nu måtte komme på børnene, uden det bliver for grafisk, men sige det som det er. Igen, som der er blevet anbefalet af myndighederne også, at man ikke pakker det ind i hvad det er, fordi altså, det er jo noget slemt noget, men også samtidig ikke at give dem unødige bekymringer. Og altså, vores tager det nogenlunde pænt og stiller nogle spørgsmål en gang imellem, og er glade for at høre nogle af de gode nyheder, der også opstår i det her, selvom de kommer på en tragisk baggrund.
Hvad er din drøm for Ukraine?
Ja, altså det er jo et sted, jeg har opholdt mig i en længere årrække gennem mit arbejde, og det er jo et dejligt fredeligt sted, og det ønsker jeg bestemt, de får tilbage. Jeg kan også godt tænke mig, at de så får lov til at være Ukraine, som Ukraine gerne vil være, kan man sige. Der er ingen... Jeg kan sige, for mig personligt, så tror jeg, at det ville være godt, hvis de kunne komme ind under den europæiske paraply og NATO, for det er sådan ligesom det eneste, jeg kan se, der lukker låget på en konflikt, den her, fordi altså, hvis nu invasionen stopper i morgen, er den så stoppet for altid, det har jeg måske mine tvivler mod, at der kan, men måske hvis den kommer bag NATO-tæppet eller en del af EU, så kunne det måske stoppe fra, for det er den vej, de ser ud til, at de ønsker at gå. De har flyttet så meget. Jeg kom først til Ukraine i 2009, og der sker et stort skift i 2014-2015 omkring Janukovic, da han flygtede fra det hele. Og hele det arbejde, de har lavet indtil da, er jo i princippet smidt på gulvet lige i øjeblikket, eller der kæmpes for, at man kan få lov til at bruge det til noget mere.